From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! All right, let's rock and roll, man. We're so close to Christmas, but we're still out here grinding for you, right, Corey? We're grinding. We care about everybody. We're working.
That's all we do, rise and grind. That's the motto of Wake Up War Chant, rise and grind.
Maybe next year, if we have an appreciation party, that'll be on the T-shirts?
Yeah, probably, and it'll be at 6 in the morning.
Oh, that's brutal.
The party, I mean.
Yeah, what?
Or at least 8 in the morning to fit with Willie Taggart's schedule.
Right on. Got to do those early morning. What if this Kendall Brown guy ever comes to Florida State and is like, hey, Willie, you let me bring in all these coaches. Can we change the time as well? Is that likely?
I mean, I would personally donate, I don't know, $1,000 to whatever Kendall Bryle's favorite charity is. If one of his stipulations was, yeah, I'll come, but I'm not getting up at 6 in the morning to coach these guys. I want to coach them at 2:30. It's $1,000, my man, to whatever charity you want.
All right, Florida State.
I assume he listens to this, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I mean, if he wants to know what's going on, what he's about to inherit, the people that will be speaking about his exploits on the field. It's us. It's me, the other guy, Corey. He has not been officially hired. We don't even know if he is unofficially hired, but it does sound like from the latest update that was given to us by our publisher founder, Gene Williams, who's dialed into the situation. No matter what you folks think, I know a lot of folks want to know something right now, this second, what's taken so long. These things take some time, unfortunately. Again, like Corey pointed out last week, the way that the university hired Willie Taggart is the exception. It's not the rule. Guys don't get hired in 4 or 5 days' time, but it does sound like, again, that this will happen. Probably not, obviously, before the early signing period, which is Wednesday. We'll have Michael Langston on later on in the program to talk about the recruiting that happened this past weekend. But it's just one of those things where it does sound like if he's going to come, he's going to bring some other assistants with him, so they need to figure out where they're going to move people, how the contracts are going to work out, and things like that. I'm not bothered by it. I know some people want to hurry up and get it done with. And if he's the guy and Willie feels like there's not going to be any, long-term damage recruiting-wise if they don't have a guy in place right now, I'm not particularly bothered by it. It gives us something to continue to talk about, I guess, right, Corey?
Well, or if he's not the guy, if you don't get him, you don't just rush into your next option. Like, there's no need to rush now. I know the only reason that you would rush at all is to keep your quarterback recruit, and who knows if that would matter or not. And you wouldn't want Sam Howell, of all people, dictating who your next offensive coordinator is, because this is a really big hire. It's a lot bigger than Sam Howell. So, I think, we all assume it's still Bryles, but if it's not, I don't think you rush into plan C just to rush into plan C to save a quarterback commitment.
Don't call it plan C. You're going to upset everybody.
Sorry, I'm playing 1A, 2A, 3A, whatever you want to say, or your second option, whatever it is. It's fine. Jeremy Pruitt wasn't Jimbo's first option. It wasn't Jimbo's first choice. That worked out all right. No shame in that.
I did not like that hire. I
thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm like, what? This guy was coaching high school like 3 years ago? This is what we're doing around here? We just lost to Florida? This is what we're doing around here?
It worked out okay.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right.
For the year, though, for that 1 year. I don't know. Jeremy Pruitt, again, I think is a very good defensive mind. I would like to see him do something with this Florida State defense or like the Georgia Tech defense. My man has always gotten to coach. He got to coach an entire NFL team at Florida State his first year as a defensive coordinator. Then went to Georgia, had some pretty good success there, and then went back to Alabama. Great, man. A couple of dogs and a monkey could coach Alabama and be really good on defense. I want to see my man do it. I want to see him to earn that paycheck, man. Well, maybe he'll turn Tennessee around. Then we'll know.
Yeah, they still need an offensive coordinator as well.
Oh, they not hired one either?
I don't think so. No, they got some guy on
it's
staff,
the early signing period is a weird. It's kind of thrown a weird dynamic into just coaching searches in general. Yeah. I would imagine, I don't know, I would imagine that there might be a change or two on Willie Taggart's staff that doesn't have anything to do with offense. and there hasn't been an announcement yet. You probably want to wait until after signing day to do that. So, it's added a weird the whole schedule, the schedule of college football. Usually you'd have 2 years ago he would have had 2 months to figure this out.
Yeah.
Now people are panicked because he didn't figure it out in 7 or 8 days. I don't know. I still don't understand why he wouldn't. If Bryles is the guy, what's the holdup?
I don't get it. I'm not upset by it. I'm not bothered by it. I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't understand. There's some people that are like, well, he wants to finish the string out in Houston and coach these guys in a bowl game. And I'm like, come on, get off of that.
I guess it's his alma mater. Is that right?
Yeah, come on, though.
But yeah, he's been there a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't know. I mean, he's known those kids for 9 months. I couldn't imagine I can't imagine it's that. And he would still be allowed to coach the team.
Yeah.
It's not like just because you take another job, you can't stay and finish it out. Lord, that's all Alabama does. Those guys take job. He has an assistant take a job every year, and they stay through the duration of the season. Yeah. I assume Houston, whatever bowl they're in. Remember when we used to cover a team that went to bowls? But whatever bowl they're in, I assume he can he still coach there and then come back, be in Tallahassee by Christmas.
Yeah, you would assume so. But this is I'm trying to find out. They're playing on the Armed Forces Bowl.
Oh,
next Saturday.
All right. I think we can all get behind that bowl.
Yeah. Armed Forces. They'll play the Army Black Knights. That punishing attack.
All right.
Jeff
Okay.
Monken.
Seems like Army would have an advantage in the Armed Forces Bowl.
You would think so. You mentioned this there briefly. By the way, follow us on the social media thing. The Wake Up War Chant account's blowing up. It's percolating. Has your followers exploded? Are you into 30,000 now, Corey, after we dropped your name on the show?
No. You want me to check real quick? I am at, let's see.
He's Corey_Clark. Corey with an E, Clark without the E. Because that's
I'm at 22,174, so I think I've gotten like maybe 40 or 50 since we talked last. I wouldn't call that an explosion.
Well, the rich
it's like a burp.
The rich get richer. I've cracked 3,500. I feel good about myself now.
There you go, buddy. There you go. When you get to 10,000, we'll know things are really working.
Yeah, let's set the bar high. Also, follow us on Twitter, Wake Up War Chant, all one word. And there's also War Chant that'll keep you in tune with the latest of what's going on with the football program. You mentioned, Corey, you assume, because you have a big brain, that it's likely that Willie Taggart will be making more than just simply changes on the offensive side of the ball. I think you might be insinuating special teams. How much of this, though, I don't want to say fair or unfair, and I hate saying I got to get off that crutch. That's my new crutch, where I'm like, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Just say it. I don't care. You got to hurt your feelings, deal with it. Defense is kind of getting a pass. We're all talking about offense this, offense that. This guy is going to get replaced by that guy. But defense is one of those things, I don't know why we're walking away from it thinking that, well, it'll just kind of sort itself out because they're going to lose the best player maybe on the entire team with Brian Burns. And I guess, they were hoping there would be an infusion of talent. We'll get some recruiting news from Michael Langston again later on in the program. But we haven't really talked about the defense at all ever since, we did the post-Florida game podcast. I don't feel like we've spoke about the defense at all. I'm still concerned about it.
Well, rightfully so, man. It was not a very good defense. There's a lot of things to be concerned about on that side of the ball. Depth on the defensive line, your entire linebacking core, safeties. I think you're good at corner going into the next season, but, you're not great anywhere. I think more than anything, man, I think it just had to do with your offensive coordinator leaving. I think if Harlan Barnett would have bounced, we'd be talking a lot about defense right now. I just think that's the overriding reason that we've been concentrating so much on offense. Plus, quite frankly, the offense is an abomination. The defense was just below average. It wasn't disastrous. So maybe that too. But yeah, man, again, I would rank the 3 segments of the football team as defense number 1, as best performing, then offense, and then special teams. And defense wasn't good at all. So that tells you kind of what you were looking at there with this season in 2018. Because, man, the defense was, I would say, by far the best segment on the football team, the best of the three, and it wasn't good.
Hardly.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you want to do. You're not firing Harlan Barnett. He needs to be better. Those guys on that side of the ball need to be better, and he's got to get he's got to find some defensive ends that can play, because the one that could this year ain't going to be here next year.
Think about that. People, poo-poo the whole fact of, Florida State went after so many kids after the national championship, or Jimbo's whole sales pitch was the NFL thing, right? I'm going to get you ready for the NFL, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And there's a certain, I guess, faction of the fan base that sort of enjoys to see that Willie's going after these, 3-star guys, more blue-collar sort of kids you would imagine, guys that will probably come in here and want to put in the work. But like these guys that are driven to go into the NFL, it's not like they're just slackers. I mean, Brian Burns wasn't a slacker. I mean, you point out how many snaps he played. Like, that's the kind of kid that, going after players that have their eye focused on the next level, those are the kind of players you're going to bring in. I mean, imagine what this defense would look like without Brian Burns. And I know for some people, he didn't live up to their expectations, but I mean, he was the I don't want to say lone shining spot. I just said it again. I don't want to say it, but I just said it. Marvin Wilson had a really good year, I think. But, I mean, without Burns, that defense, good grief. Very, very little to hang your hat on or to really feel positive about. But he's gone. So, I don't know. We're here now. I don't know. So, again, you think it's mainly – I mean, Willie said he was going to look at everything. As soon as the Florida game was over, he's going to look at every aspect of this team to improve upon. I guess since we are so focused on the offense because the coordinator is left, it doesn't necessarily mean that the defense is off limits, but it's limited into what you can do. Because he probably believes in most of those guys. I imagine he believes in Harlan Barnett. And Harlan Barnett believes in Mark Snyder. And Odell's going nowhere. And Raymond Woody's his guy. So it's hard to imagine that's going to change much. But hopefully some JUCO linebackers and a couple of freshmen and things rolling again, I guess. I mean, I know I'm just I don't believe
come
that,
on,
but I'm
man.
saying
Rolling. What does that mean?
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, they're not going from 5-7 to 11-1. It's not happening. I mean, there's a dearth of talent on both sides of the ball, both lines of scrimmage, quite frankly, that needs to get, that needs to be taken care of. And one recruiting class ain't going to do it, and one more offseason isn't going to do it. You hope they get a little bit better. You hope they go from 2009 to 2010, get a little bit better, and then the year after that, there's something that can contend for trophies. But man, no, there's just way too many holes still. And when was you brought it up before? When's the last time a JUCO linebacker made a difference? Made an impact? I'm not counting on that. They've got to bring in linebackers and they've got to develop them. They've got to evaluate. I don't know anything about the kid they got a commitment from on Sunday. I read that he was physical.
Oh, that's good. We like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, you would always rather have I was going to say you'd rather have a Matthew Thomas than a 2-star kid. I don't know that that's necessarily true, and I don't think Matthew Thomas is a great example. I'll try to think of a better one.
He got cut a few weeks back. I didn't realize that.
He did what?
He got cut. I didn't realize that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
that's too bad.
Steelers let him go.
Yeah, he hung on for a year. That kid's career at Florida State, just kind of a what could have been type. You talk about that. I mean, he did make some plays and played some, but man. I was thinking about this. Like, I've always rolled my eyes at the people that say, I'd give me a 3-star with some heart and grit.
Give me a
I'd
kid
rather
that
have a
wants
team
to play
full of them
Florida
than a
State.
team full of 5 stars.
Yeah, give me a kid that wants to play at Florida State. Yeah.
No, you wouldn't. But there are exceptions. I think at the linebacker position, man, who would have ever guessed that Vince Williams would have this kind of career in the NFL?
How about Vince?
It's crazy. He's going to be a 10 or 12-year vet. Yeah. And his brother, who was immensely more talented, played 7 games. And didn't even play on defense. Had to switch positions. Vince Williams is a guy, I don't know what he was ranked coming out of high school. He probably was a 4-star, I guess.
Yeah.
But he wasn't highly recruited. He wasn't Matthew Thomas, let's say. And that kid, man, you talk about a guy that wants it, that works hard, busts his butt, studies, gets every ounce of athleticism out of his body. You can use a few of those on your football team. Those are good people to have. Remember the kid a couple years ago at Clemson that stopped Dalvin, the white linebacker? I hate identifying someone.
Why you got to go that way, huh? Why you got to go that way?
I hate identifying a football player by his race, but
Ben Boulware.
I don't know his name. He was the white linebacker that stopped Dalvin on the 4th and 1 and always led them in tackles.
Ben Boulware.
Boulware. Yeah, there you go. How did I forget the Boulware name? Yeah, come on, man. That's crazy. But anyway, apologies to him. I didn't know your name. I apologize. That's how I identified you because I'm still stuck in the 1950s apparently. But anyway, in Clemson, quite frankly, doesn't have a lot of. Anyway,
it's fair, Corey. I'm giving a hard time. And people, if you're giving,
but yeah, that guy. Like you can use guys like that. You don't want a team full of them,
right?
But man, Florida State is in desperate need of guys like that. Guys that outplay their ranking, guys that do play with chips on their shoulders to an alarming degree. They're not going to be great. You're not going to get like LaMarcus Joyner played with a chip on his shoulder. LaMarcus Joyner was also a freak athlete. Mm-hmm. Same with Telvin Smith and Jalen Ramsey. But you can get guys that are like a Vince Williams or a Boulware. I almost called him the white guy again. I'm not going to forget that anymore. You can use guys like that, man. And so maybe this kid is that, a kid that'll outwork his ranking. I think he's a 3-star, but he's hungry. If he's hungry and wants to learn and bust it at practice and bust it in the weight room, you can use guys like that. You just can't have a whole team of them. But I don't think an infusion of guys like that and Keyshawn Helton's, man, I don't think that's a bad thing. The more chips that are on shoulders in a locker room, in my opinion, is good for a locker room.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull up this list here. So real quickly, looking at 2018, this was Willie's first recruiting class, and he obviously did not have a full cycle to go after. Jordan Young is a kid that we never really got to see much of. He was injured, I think, when he first got to campus. He's the rangy receiver from Georgia, 6'3", 190. So we didn't get to see him play. Trayshawn Harrison, I feel like he's going to be something, I don't want to say special, that's putting a lot of, but I feel like you're going to get, I just said it again, I don't want to say that, and I just said it. That's 3 times. Trayshawn Harrison's going to be a good player. He's going to be a producer for this university, I would imagine. Right?
Yes, I believe that.
All right, Anthony Grant, the guys that Willie brought in. Anthony Grant, 4-star, that's a pretty good ranking. Keyshawn Helton obviously had 3 stars. Warren Thompson's a guy everybody wanted. Dennis Briggs is a guy that he sort of, I don't want to go through this whole list. It'll take us too much time, although I pulled it up. I'll give Willie benefit of the doubt on that. I'll let him get the kind of guys that he wants, the kind of guys that he thinks he needs. Because, a guy like Woodby, yeah, he's a 5-star guy, but this previous staff didn't want to go after the kid for whatever reason. I don't know if they had mailed it in or not. So I do think Willie knows what's lacking and what he needs, and he'll be able to get the kind of guys that he wants. Now, obviously, I'm sure he wanted a Kayvon Thibodeau guy. Everybody wanted him, the defensive end out of South California, or Southern California, rather, than ended up going to Oregon. He picked Oregon over us in Alabama. How does that happen? What world are we living in?
Staying on the West Coast is the only thing I could think of, right?
Yeah. But, I mean, it'll be interesting to see more of the profile of kid that Willie brings in as we start getting away from the stars, I guess, or whatnot. But he's still, listen, I mean, the guy, he went after the Cam McDonald kid from Long Beach. He's a 4-star guy. Isaiah Boland's a guy that 4-star. So, I mean, it's not like this is Willie's always going after these guys. I think it's to Corey's point that he's picking out a few of these and then mixing them in with what they already have on the roster, and then that'll
yeah, and I don't think he's like I don't think he's recruiting like a Rick Trickett would recruit, where he's looking for diamonds in the rough and 2 stars and 1 stars and no stars, and I don't care. I just want to mold them.
Right.
I don't think it's like that. I think they think this guy can really play. I mean, you wouldn't offer someone that you didn't think could play. And I don't even know anything about this kid. He might be a diva. He might be a prima donna and thinks he's the best linebacker in the country and isn't going to work. I don't think that's the case. I just think that, Willie Taggart said after the Florida game, he's, what he said about looking for football players, and you need to infuse this roster with exactly that. And not just 5-star All-Americans. Like, again, if you can get 20 of those, perfect. You're going to win a lot of games, but you can't. So go get guys that really, really like playing the sport, are good at the sport, obviously, and have a little what for to them. You know that you can't get all those guys. I get it, but have some like a shot I thought of is Tamorian Terry. Nobody knew that guy. Now he's going to Canton. But those guys can make locker rooms. They can certainly be a great example for people. I don't think Tamorian Terry came in here and didn't work. It looks like he works really hard and he's really good, and he still plays with a chip on his shoulder. He blocks with a chip on his shoulder. That's good stuff, man. You can't get 20 of them. You don't want 22 3- and 2-star recruits. You're not, I don't know, Arkansas or BYU, but a few of them, a few guys, no matter what their rankings are, if they come in and bust their butt and play hard and get better, then yeah, it's good stuff, man. Again, that I always hesitate when people say the whole thing about, man, give me all those 3 stars that want it more than a fun. Nah, man, no. You need the superstars too. You need the freak athletes. You need the great players that are going to go play in the NFL. You need those sprinkled in there too. You also need to change an entire personality of a football team.
Yeah. I remember when they were going after Mr. Alexander. That was his full name, obviously. Everybody, Mr.
Right.
Mr. Alexander. And he was like, Florida State's my dream school. I want an offer, and they didn't offer him. Like they kept like dragging it along. I was like, why don't they offer this kid? I want kids that want to be Knowles. And it's like, man, because they probably have somebody else out there that they think that might be a little bit more talented. Now it actually worked out. I think he had a pretty good season for us his last year.
Yeah, he was a nice player. He wasn't a superstar, but I think he played in the league.
Did he? Yeah, he was with the Texans. So. He had a cup of coffee with the Texans. I know that. But yeah, it doesn't. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I kind of got too sidetracked in going through this whole recruiting thing.
Rodney Hudson is another one.
Oh yeah. Cameron.
But again, he was once in a kind of generation type player. That was they don't make him like that.
Good old R-Hud, man. Good old R-Hud. Like Trickett will be at his enshrinement if he made it like into Canton, wouldn't he? Like Trickett loved Rodney Hudson, right? Like Rodney Hudson was.
Yeah, we never got to talk to Trickett. We only get to talk to him once or twice a year. I can't remember why, but he talked to us before the South Carolina game, which was Hudson's last game, the Peach Bowl. And
Greg Reed taking Marcus Lattimore's soul game.
Yeah, Greg Reed was unbelievable in that game. If you go back and watch highlights of that game, I mean, it's crazy that guy never got a shot in the NFL. But anyway, even just as a returner. But we talked to Trickett before that game, and I can't remember why. I don't know. I think maybe we had to talk to like they it was part of the protocol for that bowl is that you had to make 2 or 3 assistants available. I don't remember, or 1 offensive and 1 defense. So anyway, we got to talk to Trickett, and I asked him about Hudson, just what he's meant to him, what it's been like to coach him, and legit, the man started crying.
Yeah,
he legitimately started crying, just talking about him, and he couldn't. Like I think he got choked up and had to take a moment before he could continue. That that's cool. That was a really cool moment to see. And Hudson kind of got lost in the at the all-time great list or roster of Florida State players, but that dude was a great college lineman. Yeah, but man, he played on a bunch of bad teams, so it didn't really matter. But he was really good.
They don't make
and he's still in the league, right?
Oh yeah, making money, man. He made big contract with the Raiders a few years back. Pretty sure he's still on the roster there. I don't think John Gruden's been stupid enough to get rid of him.
John Gruden's crazy like a fox, buddy. Gonna get that number 1 overall pick.
In draft, who can't get to it yet, brother. You got to wait another year to get to it.
Good point. But
yeah, so got sidetracked. Real quick, though, Greg Reed, shout out to him. There was something that kind of went semi-viral, at least within like Florida State circles on the internet. Young man actually posted a photo, I think of himself maybe in some sort of graduation gear or something like that. But somebody actually, a young man on the internet, on Instagram, tagged Greg Reed, thanked him. Apparently this young man at one point a few years ago was a homeless person in Jacksonville. Greg Reed offered him some food or some money to get a meal one night. And I guess coach the guy up a little bit. It was like, tell him, listen, man, get out there and try your hard. Greg Reed kind of just befriended this kid, helped him out. The kid ended up actually just recently graduating from, I think, boot camp or whatever. So he's like off to the Army, and he thanked Greg Reed for helping him out and seeing something in him and all that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is, and it's like I think he gave him $20 or $30 or bought him a couple meals and gave him a bit of a pep talk, and it's not so much what it meant to Greg Reed, because I would imagine Greg Reed didn't remember that at all. But what you do these small things for people that maybe you don't even realize, and I'm not saying I'm not throwing myself into that, but you might not even realize what it means to them. But it can be like a life-changing event for them, and for you, it's just all right. I'm not even sure I remember that.
Yeah.
So that's always cool. So I think the lesson there is be polite, be kind, folks, especially around the holidays. Right, Aslan? You can agree with that.
Nah, man. Let's talk about this defense. So it's terrible.
Oh, okay, good.
Fire
Hope
everybody.
Back to that.
No, the point I wanted to get to before I got so sidetracked was, so let's think best case. I'm going to do something difficult. I'm going to be optimistic here. So let's think best case, because they're not going to get rid of any coaches on that side of the ball, it doesn't feel like. I don't know who would want anybody. I mean, not to be rude about it, but I mean.
Good grief. All right, go ahead.
I mean, if somebody might want to take away Mark Snyder to become their defensive line coach, Odell. I mean, no one's going to go after Odell because everyone knows Odell ain't leaving. Odell can't leave. You're not allowed to leave Odell.
Yeah. By the way, if there's ever a time to really sound the alarms and sprint for the hills because the thing is over, if Odell leaves, and goes and works at Alabama or Miami or somewhere else, it is time to end it.
Oh, I almost want that to happen, just because no matter what, there's that faction of the fans that no matter what happens, they'll always be like, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay. Just hear
if that happened, I feel like we'd all fall into a crater. That would be the end of times. So yeah, and I'm not saying it's a bad sign for the Florida State program. It's a bad sign for humanity. And we all got to start making peace with whatever being you might believe in. You got to make peace because the end is coming.
Yeah, that's the first thing that'll happen. That'll be the signal of Armageddon occurring. But again, so this coaching staff is going to return intact, I assume, on the defensive side of things. But a guy like Emmett Rice was hurt most of the season. Amari Gaynor was hurt most of the season. I mean, guy broke his foot right before the season even started. I mean, those guys bring something to the table that obviously was lacking last year. And Emmett Rice, I thought, had a pretty good game against Boston College. And I don't know if he fell into that sort of Landon Dickerson trap where, they strapped him in, they got him ready for one game, and then he just couldn't go the rest of the way. Dickerson's thing was beside the point. I shouldn't have brought that up. That was him not managing a scar on his, post-surgery ankle well enough. I just one of those things where I think that they kind of got what they could get out of Emmett Rice in that Boston College game, so they had to keep the streaks alive at that point. But if Emmett Rice comes back, mended, Amari Gaynor comes back, full go. Dontavius Jackson, I know he was the best of the bunch of a below-average bunch when it comes to linebackers, but you would assume senior year, you're dialed in, this is like the last rodeo and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a little bit better. And then you have guys like DeKalon Brooks and Adonis Thomas coming off the bench, which maybe is better suited for them, certain sub-packages rather than them being out there in base. So at least you got that at linebacker. The secondary's got to be better, too. Levante Taylor hopefully will heal from his alleged, I shouldn't say alleged, but, I mean, heck, we never saw anything about stress fracture. We never heard anything from the school about it. It came out from The Athletic. But then the front four is kind of, But I guess the linebackers, right? The linebackers can be a lot better than last year. That'll be a positive sign.
I think they can be better. Not a lot better. And I think, you got to get better safety play. You got to figure that out. You just got to figure out what you're doing with Stanford Samuels. And figure out what you're doing at the corner spots. I think you got corners that can play, and you got this other kid coming in that they're the 5-star kid, Dent.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
Oh yeah,
yeah, there you go. I know. I got this class. I know it like the back of my hand. So you've got talent in the secondary. You've got to figure out how they all get on the field, one way or another. You don't need a lesser player taking snaps away from you just got to figure out a way to do it like LSU did whenever that was 7 years ago when they had Honey Badger and all those dudes out there, Eric Reed, I think.
Yep.
Just get them all on the field. Get your best players on the field. Find some good players, number one, and get them on the field. I think the defensive line, man, yeah, they got to figure that out. Obviously, you got Marvin. Everything else is a question mark. You know what? I think Durden is a good player. I think Durden could be a defensive end.
No,
like not a 3-down defensive end, but on rushing downs, he could be a defensive end. He could be I just think that guy gets after the quarterback. He's a good player, but they got to find a couple. Maybe Kendo takes a step if he's fully healthy. They just got to find guys that can make plays on the defensive line because they just didn't have many.
Yeah, Jalen Parks, he'll be healthy hopefully as well. He missed the entire season with some sort of.
And Cooper's an enormous person. Cooper could be. I mean, he's two defensive linemen by himself. It's like you're running a 5-3 with him out there.
Large human.
So use that. Him and Marvin together you just shouldn't give up running yards at all with those two guys on the field. But you can't rush the passer with those two guys. I mean, that's 700 pounds coming at you. That's just slow to get back to a quarterback that's in the shotgun against these types of offenses. You got to have guys coming off the edge that can make plays. Figure it out somehow.
Yeah. All right, let's step aside. We'll bring Michael Langston in to give us the latest on recruiting. And, we'll do that. We'll be right back after this. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, all Noles, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
The real hip-hop MC.
Welcome back to Wake Up War Chant. Aslan here. Let's bring in Michael Langston at Michael War Chant on the Twitter machine, warchant.com and rivals.com, recruiting analyst. Busy weekend. It was the last official weekend. Players could come visit before the quiet period started, before early signing day. How did it go? How'd it go, Michael? Size it up for us.
It was really good. I mean, I thought it was really positive for FSU, and I mean, you really didn't know, when you're coming off a 5-7 season, your first big weekend, you really don't know. I mean, you have an idea, like, the staff can connect with kids. Personally, they do a good job with the culture and all that stuff. But when you're coming off a bad season, you just don't know when you have so many guys and how it's gonna work. But I'd say I cannot find too many negatives that came out of this weekend. It was extremely positive for FSU.
One commitment that I did see come down was Kevon Glenn, the linebacker out of Georgia. How did he sort of come out? It seems like he came on the radar late in the game, but how did Florida State and Willie Taggart, how were they able to close a deal on him, and what kind of player is he?
Well, we had kind of mentioned him probably about 3 weeks ago that he's a guy to watch. This is before he even got an offer. And, I just heard some rumblings that, he was a guy they really liked. They studied his senior film, and he was a guy they followed some throughout the year and then really reevaluate him as his senior film. And they just, I fell in love with this kid. He's a hard-hitting, heat-sticking missile at middle linebacker. Great guy in run support, physical tackler, just does a lot, everything that they need at the Mike position, which is a very big weakness for them. They don't have a lot of guys there. So I think they just fell in love with this kid from the start. He probably should be ranked higher if you watch his film. Played for one of the best defenses in the state of Georgia. One of the leading tacklers on this team. I mean, he just did everything. You watch him on defense; he's everywhere. Coverage, run to sport. He just fits everything of what FSU wanted. He's kind of one of those late bloomers that you get, kind of like how they were able to get Tamari and Terry a few years ago. Not comparing his impact to Tamari and Terry, but just saying that's how highly he was thought of by the staff when they evaluated him, and certainly a big pickup for FSU. I was not surprised. I'd already heard about the commitment going down probably this weekend. I think they wanted to hold it off until after the visits were done just to wrap up everything they're doing. But I think FSU felt very confident that it was going down, and he even took like a secret visit. A lot of people didn't even know he visited, like on, I think, Saturday. So I think I think that kind of solidified it, and certainly just a great job by Raymond Woody to scout this kid for, I think, a couple of months, and they got on him, and they're like, and they wanted to close the deal, and they got it done, and certainly at a big need, like linebacker, we've addressed like linebacker, offensive line. Those are two positions they really need to hit, and certainly they have 3 already in the fold at linebacker, and they're hoping to get one more.
What about this Lakia Henry kid, the junior college linebacker? He came and visited. Did he visit this past weekend?
Yes, he visited, stayed for 3 days, I think, got there Friday night. You could say 2.5 days, I guess.
Yeah.
And, they liked it a lot. Everything clicked. He's a Tennessee commit. I think they like him a lot. He's a little bit shorter than, as far as height-wise, than they thought. Listed 6 feet, I think, in the database. I think he's more like 5'10", maybe 5'11", so a couple inches shorter than what I guess they thought, but wasn't like he's a midget or anything. I mean, but he was just a little shorter than they thought. I think he's a guy they like a lot, but I think the main guy that they want and they're kind of waiting on to see what happens, and they can do that with Lakia's because Lakia's not signing till February, is Derek Hall. They're waiting to see what happens there. I think it's going to be either FSU or Auburn. I think FSU is confident that they're cautiously confident that they have a great shot. I don't think they know for sure which way he's going to go, but I think that there's been momentum with Derek that I know that Auburn people are nervous about which way it could go, but I think that's a coin flip right now. It could go either way, but I think that's the guy they're waiting on, that 4th spot. If they can get him, I think they would probably be done at linebacker.
Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for WarChant.com and Rivals.com, joining us here on Wake Up WarChant. Real quick on defense, then we'll move to offense. Just Kayvon Thibodeau, obviously a big fish that Florida State was in high pursuit of. Him going to Oregon, is that one of the more, I don't want to say shocker. I just said I don't want to say it, but I said it anyways. I've been saying that all day today, Michael. How surprising was that he picked Oregon over Florida State and Alabama?
I'd say it's more intriguing, Aslan, than it was shocking because Oregon was always a team, after he took that visit that he really liked a lot. It was the only team that was in his top 4 that was on the West Coast. My thinking was, and I didn't hear this from him, but that, playing close to home was maybe a bigger factor. And he didn't really decide. And, a lot of kids say, oh, I just made my decision. And a lot of times that's kind of fabricated. I think with Kayvon, I think that was real, where I think Alabama and FSU both thought it was going to be them two battling it out. And I think the more he thought about it, the more, he liked their journalism program, what they do there. And also the fact that his mom can be there. She didn't hate Cristobal, so it wasn't like it was like any discomfort there. So I think he wanted to play closer to home, and I think he wanted to go to Oregon. And he thinks, they're building something. Cristobal's building something special there, and I think being closer to home is what won out for him. But I wasn't stunned. I was somewhat, I'd say, mildly surprised, just because I had heard that it was FSU and Alabama, and I think Alabama and FSU were pretty adamant that it was going to be those two. So I think that was the only surprise part, was that the finalist was supposed to be those two, and then turned out neither one of them was, and it was Oregon. So I'd say mild surprise.
All right, let's move over to offense now. Michael, offensive line, obviously the huge need, and everybody's concerned about that. How do you think things went with that junior college offensive lineman out of California, Jay Williams?
Well, he made me get up pretty early to go see him, but I think it went really well. I think everything connected. I mean, my honest opinion, I think they did enough that they're going to land that kid. And Jay Williams is who we're talking about, offensive tackle from El Cajon, California. But I think they did enough where, they really made a strong impression on the type of culture they have. But also, he wasn't just another body to them. He wasn't just a guy like, oh, we just want another guy because we need offensive lineman. It was like a real, we expect you to come in and we want you to battle for a spot. We want you to take somebody's starting position, take somebody's spot. So it wasn't just like, oh, we want a body. It was a guy he could tell they really wanted him, and I think that was made clearly. And just the I think the family-oriented environment, he really liked that a lot about what FSU offered. And we've already talked all weekend about the paintball fight that they had and all that stuff, and he really enjoyed that and bragged about shooting somebody in the face, which is always funny. But
Who to shoot in the face?
I think he really liked it a lot, and I think everything just really connected with him. So I think he's going to decide on Wednesday, but I think there's a good chance FSU should get some good news there.
All right. I guess what then is your biggest takeaway out of the weekend, Michael? I mean, most of these guys that came in, were these guys that they want to get signed before the early signing period? And I guess maybe the 5-7 record didn't really deter a lot of these guys, it seems like, after you've been able to talk to them.
I think my biggest takeaway was the guys that were commitments and the guys that were, people were, you hear rumors and they're mildly concerned about, and you hear Akeem Den and then Kalen DeLoach and then Dante Lucas. All those guys made it clear, like, Akeem said he wouldn't commit totally to it, but he sounded like he was leaning towards signing early to get this thing done and be over with. And then we already know about Kalen DeLoach. He made it clear he's signing with FSU. He said that Sunday. And then with Dante Lucas, he basically said the same thing, that he's signing with FSU and he's ready to get there and get to work. So that was the one that I take away with the commits. There was a strong bond with all those guys. And I think all the ones that were really solidly committed really helped those guys that were, maybe just been to other places and then they had to just be reminded why they committed to FSU and how much they like it. And, now they're in that same boat with the guys that were solidly committed. And then my other takeaway was they did a tremendous job with these guys that were uncommitted. And, guys like Maurice Smith, I think there's a really good shot that FSU could flip him on Wednesday. And then we already talked about Jay Williams, a guy I think they have a good shot with. And then just made impressions on just about everyone that was there as far as guys they could pull in this class that visited that were uncommitted. And we didn't mention defensive back Jarvis Brownlee. I think they're going to get him. He decommitted from Miami. And then you also have Malcolm Ray, who's a defensive tackle that is committed to South Florida, but I think FSU is going to flip him. So, like I said, there's not too many negatives you can come away with this weekend. They really connected with these kids, and I think the biggest thing too is, at FSU, and I think we'll see more of this as the staff's together, is, when it's out of season, we saw this before the season and now postseason. This staff does an incredible job showing what FSU is going to be all about and really connecting and showing what their visions are. And the kids really buy into that, and they see that they could be the difference, and how this class is going to make a big difference, especially, when you hire your new coaches, the offensive coordinator. I think there's going to be more of a jolt of excitement. So I think it was even better than expected, an extremely positive weekend for FSU and in those two areas, and that was my two takeaways from the event. I really think you're going to see more and more kids. I think it's going to get to a point where the majority of the kids are going to be signing early as this new rule comes into place. I think you're just going to see more and more kids. Like the majority of, I think, FSU's class and just classes in general, you're going to see a lot more of these kids just signing early. I think kids are they don't want to deal with all that stuff, and they want to focus on, getting prepared for their school. And I'll also say this, we didn't talk about this guy, but offensive lineman William Putnam, we've talked about him a little bit, hearing some pretty solid signals that I think FSU has taken the lead there, and I think I'll be surprised if he picks FSU on Wednesday. So that's another guy to keep an eye on. I think FSU's gained some momentum there, and so you have that. And then we'd heard that quarterback Sam Howell commitment. He supposedly visited North Carolina right before the end of the dead period. So there's some solid concern, I think, there with that still going on. And so it's good news, bad news. I think the good news, obviously, with Putnam, and the bad news, they're still in a fight, and it's pretty shaky with the quarterback Sam Howell.
All right, well, follow Michael Langston on the premium recruiting board over on warchant.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 to get a 30-day free trial, and he'll break it all down for us on the show Thursday after the early signing period on Wednesday. Michael, thank you for the time, man. Appreciate it.
You got it, man.
All right, he's again Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for WarChant.com and Rivals.com. And don't forget, folks, tonight, 7 o'clock, Noles back in action. The top 10 Florida State Seminole men's basketball program in action, taking on Southeast Missouri State. We'll be there. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Talk to you then.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.